Welcome to today's bedtime story, friends. Panda Millie is speaking to you again. Today I'll tell you the first part of the story about Peter Pan, the boy who could fly and never wanted to grow up. In a city where the mornings are always a little misty, there stands a rather ordinary red brick house. At first glance, it looks quite ordinary, but as it often happens in fairy tales, inside it hides something special. In this house lives the Darling family, a kind mother, a caring father, and 3 children whose heads are full of dreams. And do you know who their nanny is? Guess. A big fluffy St. Bernard lady, Nana. She watches the children at every step and adores them even more than the bones she has buried in the garden. Nana knows that her task is to protect the children and always stay close to them. She loves them with all her doggy heart. Every evening, Mrs. Darling tells the children bedtime stories about princesses, pirates, flying boys, and islands where no one ever grows up. While Michael falls asleep with her teddy bear, and John quietly wonders where the north might be, Wendy listens as if enchanted. She keeps every word her mother says in her heart like a treasure, because Wendy believes. She believes those stories are true, and that somewhere high in the sky there really lives a boy who will never grow up. One quiet night, when the whole city was asleep, and the only sound in the room was the gentle breathing of sleeping children, the half-open window quietly moved. A soft breeze lifted the curtain, and Peter Pan flew inside. Behind him came the fairy Tinkie. "The shadow! It must be somewhere here. I'm sure I lost it here," Peter whispered. "I told you that you should hold on to it better, not just fly up and down like the wind." You might be wondering, how can someone lose their shadow? After all, a shadow is always with us, isn't it? But Peter Pan is not quite an ordinary boy, and his shadow isn't ordinary either. It happened some time ago. One night, when Peter first flew to the window of the Darling family's house, he heard Mrs. Darling telling stories and curiously peeked through the window. He sat quietly on the windowsill and listened to tales of pirates, fairies, and adventures. Never before had he heard someone tell stories so beautifully. Suddenly, Mrs. Darling quickly stood up and went to look at the window. It seemed to her that she had heard a fine rustling sound. Peter got frightened. He quickly tried to fly away, but Mrs. Darling closed the window so fast that, Peter managed to fly away, but his shadow remained in the room. And so it lay there for many days. Peter waited for the right moment to come back and get it. "Ah, here it is! At last I found it, my very own shadow, said Peter. He picked it up and quickly stuffed it into his pocket. Tinkie didn't like that. But Peter, you should have stuck your shadow back on right away, not just put it in your pocket. And just then, Wendy woke up. You really are Peter Pan? Peter looked a little surprised. Yes, and you are Wendy, I know. You know the most beautiful stories. I've listened to all of them. What are you doing here at night? A while ago I lost my shadow here in this room, so I came back to get it. I've already found it, but it won't stay on. First I just put it in my pocket, but Tinkie thinks it should be stuck back on. I tried to stick it with soap, but it won't hold. Could you help me, please? When Wendy imagined Peter Pan trying to stick his shadow on with soap, she laughed. With soap? That won't work. A shadow has to be sewn on. Wendy took a needle and thread and very carefully sewed Peter's shadow back on. Peter twisted and laughed, and when it was finished, he said, "Thank you, Wendy. Look, I have my shadow back. I'm whole again." Wendy smiled. "I'm glad I could help you, Peter. And now tell me, who is Tinkie?" "She's my fairy." "A fairy? A real fairy? And why do you have a fairy?" Peter continued. "Every child has their own fairy, but only as long as they believe in her. Tinkie has been my fairy forever. She guards my dreams and my adventures." "And what happens when children stop believing?" At that thought, Tinkie grew sad. "Then we fade away." "But you still believe. You can see her, can't you?" Peter asked. "Yes, she is beautiful," Wendy replied dreamily. Tinkie floated a little higher, spun in the air, and a fine magical dust fell from her wings. And then Peter spun as well and rose into the air. Yes, Peter Pan could fly. Wendy watched him with a bated breath and asked, "Peter, where did you actually come from? Where do you live?" "Second to the right," Peter said, "and then straight on till morning." Wendy laughed. "What a funny address." "I live at Neverland," Peter continued, "on a magical island where no one ever grows old and where children can fly. It's a place where every day turns into a new adventure. There is a forest where the trees can talk, a lake with mermaids, Captain Hook's pirate ship, and the lost boys who never want to become grown-ups." Wendy liked the sound of that. "That sounds wonderful. And what do you do there all day?" "We play, we fly, we fight pirates, and we discover magical places. But you know, Wendy," Peter continued mysteriously, "there is something we're missing very much." Wendy grew curious. "What is it?" "Stories. We need someone who can tell them in a way that turns them into dreams. You would be the best storyteller. With your stories, the children in Neverland would believe in magic again and start dreaming once more. Come with me to Neverland." "I'd love to, but what about my brothers, John and Michael? Could they come too?" Peter nodded. "Of course, Neverland needs brave warriors and explorers too. John will be like our captain of logic. And Michael, he has a heart as big as the island itself. We'll all fly together." "But Peter, we don't know how to fly." "You'll learn. All it takes is a little fairy dust, a pinch of courage, and most of all, to believe." And in that moment, the room changed. Sparkles began to shimmer in the air. Wendy, John, and Michael rose above their beds for the very first time. Then they flew out a window and headed toward the clouds. And so their journey to the land where children never grow up to Neverland began. What awaits them in Neverland? I'll tell you more in the next part of Peter Pan's story. Until then, your Panda Millie says goodbye.